Hey guys, welcome to Behind Church Doors. I am Rochelle Richard.
And I am Jenna Lewis. And we both grew up in fundamentalist churches and are here to share our deconstruction with you.
Can we act like fools? Pop this in for a little bit of fun. You and I until the sun comes up. Pop this in for a little bit of fun. Let me feel a million breeze.
What is today's topic?
Today's topic is actually True Love Waits.
True Love
I know this
Waits.
is only our second episode, but I've been waiting
Same.
for this because I feel like this is
Where we wanted to start more. Like, we
Yeah.
have to give the background of who we are.
this is when the trauma started.
I don't know. For me, the trauma started pretty early, but this is a lot of the trauma. So I know. So if you missed it last week, we talked about kind of like who we are and like what our kind of high level backgrounds were. And so this week we're going to dive into it was a program called True Love Waits that was adopted by a lot of churches in our age group. I don't think they do it as much anymore, but I think
No, they still do it in my
They
church.
still do
it's
it,
Still
yeah.
so strong in my church, like in the church that I grew up in, for sure, in the Pentecostal church.
Yeah.
And we had something very similar to True Love Waits. Luckily for me, I was in two churches. So
Double dose.
I got to get two portions of it. I got True Love Waits from like the first church that I went to, and the church that I grew up in, the Pentecostal church. I got what we call Purity.
Purity,
which
yeah.
is very similar. It's like basically
It's
the same
all
thing
the
as True Love
same.
Waits.
It's all don't have sex. It's bad.
Basically, yeah.
Okay, so I know we kind of had what things we wanted to talk about, but we were talking about starting with maybe like our personal experiences with sex education specifically, because I think that's a big gap in Christian communities is
Yeah,
sex
for
education. And so tell me about your sex education.
So for sure,
what you know about sex.
I didn't even think about this earlier, but I actually, growing up, I never had like the sex talk with my mom.
Me either.
Like, but we didn't have, like, now we're way more open with each other, but
Yeah.
like back then, we did not have that level of communication.
Yeah.
But so I had the sex talk at like a Girl Scout. Like my Girl Scout leader, not even joking.
Oh, no.
She came to my school.
How
in
old were you?
Sixth grade.
That's how old? We were just doing the math. What,
I
11?
think that's 11, like 10 or 11, sixth grade, yeah.
Okay.
So she came to my school in sixth grade and did like a whole talk with my entire class. She was also a nurse. So now that I think about it, I think she just was like the nurse at the school maybe and also happened to be my Girl Scout leader.
I was gonna say, they don't just let random people come and give lectures.
Now that I piece all this together, like I'm literally
Wait a
working
second.
through this in my head as I talk about it. So the school nurse, which happened to be my Girl Scout leader, had like the sex talk with us. And that talk was very much,
What was it?
I remember sitting in the classroom with all the girls, no boys. It was just the girls. They separated the girls and the boys. And actually I remember being jealous because the boys got to go to recess while the girls had the sex talk.
What?
Which was
So not
so
fair.
wild, yeah. So she just told us basically don't have sex. Literally don't
she
have
didn't
sex.
tell you like what sex was.
No, so
or...
she did tell us about like condoms, like once you get married, literally once you get married, use condoms until you're ready to have a baby. That's what I learned at school.
So I'm really curious though. Did you even know at that time like penis, vagina is sex, or like at least traditional sex, right?
I don't think so. So I was an athlete pretty young. I started playing soccer and softball and volleyball like very young. So I wasn't, and my parents didn't really let us hang out with a lot of different kids, you know?
Right.
So I just wasn't interested. I was a tomboy. I wasn't interested in boys. I wasn't interested in sex, you know?
And how that changed later.
Oh, boy.
I'm just kidding. We'll talk about that later.
I don't think that like, now that I'm really thinking about it, I just don't think that I was interested in boys. So I don't think I even thought about like having sex or anything.
Yeah.
And I'm sure my mom recognized that at the time. It was just like, oh, she's not gonna have sex. Just let her have the talk at school. But when I got home from school, I remember because
they tell you when they have
Yeah,
those
because I think you have
talks.
to sign a permission slip or
do.
something. And I'm pretty sure, I remember her just being like, oh, like how was school? And I'm like, it was good. Did you talk about anything interesting? Yeah. Do you have any questions? Nope. And that was the extent of our conversation. There was no like birth control. There was no
I feel like that's a
protect
lot
yourself.
of
There was
parent
none of
strategy,
that.
though. Like, I feel like a lot of parents are like, just let the school handle it.
Yes, and
I'm
that
like,
is not the way to do it.
No.
Yeah, so I don't even remember a time when I had.
never mind. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay.
No, I'm going to go on a total tangent with that question later.
Yeah, I don't remember a time when I had a conversation with my mom about, this is your vagina. This is what a penis looks like. Like,
Yeah.
I cannot remember a time when I had that conversation. A lot of things that I learned from my friends, which I think a lot of
Right.
people in our generation, we learn from each other, which is awful because no one knew what we were doing. Or if you had like an older friend
Right.
who was, you know,
Yeah.
a little loosey-goosey, as they'd say back in the day, like, you know, then we'd hear things. But yeah, that's pretty much my like sex education. That's how my sex education came about.
That's awful.
Yeah. Now that I say it out loud,
Yeah,
it
you're
sounds
like,
way worse. Like, that was terrible. I would not,
Yeah. So I am curious then around, like, maybe some people won't want to hear this, but like around your period. Like,
Yeah.
Like, at what age did that start, and did your mom talk to you then about anything?
Yeah, so I was in 7th grade.
Uh-huh.
And I don't recall if we had like a conversation
This
about
is
it.
after what she thought was the
Yes.
sex talk. Okay.
I started my period luckily overnight, like I wasn't in school or anything. And when she came to wake me up that morning for school, she saw that I had started my period. And that's when she told me about like, the only conversation I was like about pads.
Not about tampons.
Not about tampons, not about like,
Was your family also like anti-tampon? Like, so I know my family was. They were, that takes your virginity.
no, I don't think mom ever said that, but I think maybe she didn't wear them and so she just didn't let me wear them. You know, just a little old school.
Yeah.
But I do remember, I think I was like a sophomore in college or something. One of my friends at the time was like taught me about period panties, and I didn't even know that was like a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like panties that you wear in your period.
Yeah.
No idea. Just out here raw dogging, ruining panties like it's nothing.
Okay.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I just remember being like so pissed at my mom for like not teaching me about period panties, like old panties that you can wear while you're in your period. You're supposed to wear while you're in your period.
Yeah.
No idea about that.
The granny panties.
Yeah, the granny panties. Didn't know about that at all.
That's funny.
But yeah, I don't know why I was so mad at my mom about that. Like, you told me
I really
all these
so
years I
many.
didn't know.
Oh my gosh.
But
That's
yeah,
funny.
that was my like baseline for sex education before I went through, because I think it probably wasn't until like the following year that I actually went through like the purity class.
Right.
But that's like my basis of like sex education. What about you?
Basically none. Next. And I was like, no, my parents never ever talked about sex. It was like a very no subject. If people were like even kissing too intensely on TV, they'd be like, we need to fast forward or change it. Like they were those people, they were very sex
Same
adverse. Yeah, so I was homeschooled, which I don't remember if we talked about last time, which I think needs to be a whole other episode. But I was homeschooled, so I never had school sex education. I basically just heard stuff from friends. And my parents never gave me like a formal sex talk. And none of my sisters. So I have 2 sisters, and they never talked to either of us about sex. And then the essentially the only juvenile formal, I use that loosely, education I got was through church. Through Your Love Leads, which is not, a great way to have that happen. But yeah, my parents, like, it was so much not talked about. Like, I don't know about you when you like started your period, but like for me, like now it's funny, then it was not, but like I had no idea what was happening to me. So much so that I had heard a story of like one of my friends, one of my friend's parents knew someone that had bladder cancer, and they were talking about, you know how kids just hear stuff.
Yeah.
They're talking about how he's peeing blood, right? So I come down the stairs, I was at home, and I started when I went to the bathroom, and I noticed blood in the toilet.
Oh man.
I come downstairs, my mom has friends over. I come down crying unconsolably that I'm dying and I have cancer. It was traumatizing. And so I'm dying and I have cancer, and they're all of them are, all these ladies are like freaking out, like what is wrong? Why do you think this? Like you don't have cancer. And I'm like, I'm peeing blood. And they all stop. And they're like, oh, like, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, they stop and they kind of get these goofy looks on their faces and they think it's like adorable, but it was the most traumatizing thing.
Sounds scary.
It was awful. And I'm like, that's a terrifying thing to have happen to you, and you have no idea why I have all this blood coming out of my body, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so I knew nothing about it. And so that same thing, it was pads only in my house. Now mine was because they didn't want anything to enter the vagina. So So they were, it was just so crazy. But so yeah, I essentially never had any formal sex education, safe sex, nothing.
That's crazy.
Knew nothing about any of that. And I know I was also like the quote bad child, if you will. So like I obviously had friends and I learned stuff from friends, but my little sister, so much so, did not even know what a penis looked like by the time when she was 18. She still didn't even know what it looked like. We were watching, and here, this is how much I know, like she did not know. Have you watched the movie, Sisters?
Yes.
Okay, there's a scene in there where there's penises spray painted on the walls, right?
Yes.
And me and Penny, or I probably shouldn't have said it, but whatever. Me and my sister like are like laughing at whatever was happening at the thing, and my little sister had no clue, like no idea that was a penis we were looking at. And like that's how much she just had no clue.
And I feel like that's like the dream for our parents.
Oh yeah.
Like 18 years old, you know what a penis looks like? I have done everything right.
My youngest sister is like a parent's wet dream. Actually dry dream, because they don't believe in wet dreams.
And you know what's sad is that like growing up, I was that kid.
Yeah.
Like I am definitely like.
You were really good.
Yeah, I just did what they told me to do simply because they told me to do it.
Yeah.
And even to this day, I'm just not a like learn the hard way kind of kid. Never been that way.
Definitely am.
You tell me like, don't go down that road, the bridge is out. Which way should I go? Just tell me where to go. I'm not even gonna try to figure it out on my own.
Yeah.
Because I may somehow end up down that road. And I'm sure that's like my parents' dream, but it like
causes more
ruined me.
harm than good.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my
So
gosh.
like, what was your first like experience with true love weights? Like, did your parents ask you like this is something you can do, or is it like this is what you're doing?
It was, this is what you're doing. It was never an option. So our church also did it every year, right? I can't remember what time of the year. It was the same, I think it was probably around Valentine's if I had to guess. Cause
that's what I was thinking
They do that shit, like whatever. So if I had to guess, it was around there. But in our church, when you were in 7th grade, when you started the school year, you got to go to youth group, right? And it was like a big deal. And so True Love Waits is a part of their program. Well, when it came up, it was actually a point of contention with my family because they were going to talk about sex and they did not want me involved with that.
Oh my God.
But they wanted me involved with the don't have sex without talking about sex, which is kind of fucking
not make
insane.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so essentially they had me, I was not allowed to go to, so there was like True Love Waits, we can talk about the program a little bit more, but like essentially it's multiple weeks, right? And you're doing a thing in a classroom style kind of at your church over a few weeks. And some people do it over a retreat weekend or whatever. We did it during youth group every week for a few weeks. I think it was like 4 weeks. And the week that they got a little bit more graphic in like penis vagina, I was not allowed to go. Yeah.
That is
even the
so
church,
wild to me.
Even the church sanctioned materials, I was not allowed to go because they were going to get too graphic that time, and my parents weren't okay with it. So I'm like, I did go to True Love Waits, but I didn't even do the whole thing because of that.
It's like hard to not be like angry with my parents for like those types of things.
Yeah.
Because I do honestly believe that they were doing the best I think they thought they were doing the best that they could in the situation that they were in.
Yeah.
But
you seem like you have way more acceptance than I do, but
yeah, I
see. The thing is though, I get that because I hear a lot of people say that. Like, my parents really did do the best that they could with what they had, is what I hear people say. But I have a hard time believing that that's true. And I'm not trying to make your parents' relationship worse, but at least for me, I'm like, I'm a parent now. I'm a young parent. I'm a younger parent than my parents were.
Me too, yeah.
You cannot tell me that they didn't. I'm like, and I guess I live in a more of information age than they did, and we have the internet and they didn't, and it's like, I get those things, but I'm like, you were still a human being experiencing life.
It's hard to understand.
Yeah.
I can't understand it either.
I have a hard time understanding.
But like, I think, like, my dad grew up in the church, like the same church I grew up in.
Yeah.
So he has a lot of like the same like kind of understanding that I have. Like, he understands more the struggles that I have now. Coming out of the church.
Yeah.
My mom didn't grow up in the church, but she also had my sister when she was 14.
So yeah, so I knew she started really young.
When she was 18, she had a second baby.
Yeah.
So she, I think, just wanted to protect us from that. Like, her goal was like, if my daughters graduate high school, without getting pregnant, like
Yeah.
then she felt like she did good.
Yeah.
That was like her biggest fear, was us following in her footsteps, but I think she just like overcorrected. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like just
So like I can even understand
But
that, like out of
I just
fear
don't.
of not wanting your kid.
I can't relate. Having a daughter,
Yeah.
I just would not put her through that. But I'm sure my mom was thinking, like, having daughters, I don't want them to go through what I went through.
Yeah.
But
I just don't know what my parents' excuse was, because they.
I don't even know if I don't even want to call it an excuse. I'm not gonna say
Yeah.
it's an excuse, because to this day, my mom still strongly believes
In
true
purity.
love waits and
Yeah.
purity into your marriage, and like she is still very deep into that, and
Yeah.
I still can't like get behind it.
No.
So I feel like maybe she did do the best that she could, but like she still feels that way.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with her the other day about true love waits.
Yeah.
I'm like, do you think it's okay to talk to a 12-year-old about having sex? And she's like, at least they know what not to do. And I'm like, no.
No, so I do think that it's okay to talk to a 12-year-old about having sex. I think you kind of have to, especially now.
Especially
Because
nowadays.
you have kids getting pregnant at 12 and 13 years old. Like, I think you have to have that talk even before they have their first period, because you can get pregnant before that, right?
Girls are getting their period at 10 these days.
Well, I got my period very early too, so I got my period at 10. So,
See, I was like 12.
yeah, so I was like 10 or 9 or 10. I was really young. So in that aspect, like, you know, I understand, but they're going to hear it. They're going to see it. They're going to come across porn. They're going to come across, they're going to have those things. And the more I think we push it off as this like awkward conversation that we have to have as parents, like, I think the more you do that, the more harmful it is. And the more you continue the stigma around sex in this like hushed,
Negative way.
Negative, we
like,
don't talk
yeah.
about it. Like, it's like fucking we don't talk about Bruno, but it's like
Yeah.
just completely oblivious. Like,
Yeah.
don't even act like it exists. And it's just crazy to me. Like I know for, you know, we can go into how we're doing stuff differently later, but you know, I don't understand it, but that's just, you know, me. But what about you? What about your church? What happened with your church experience?
Yeah, so I did go to the True Love Waits ceremony at the church that we both attended. And I maybe I did it a couple years before you, because I'm a few years older than you, so maybe I don't think we did it at the same time, but I think some of the other girls that, you know, I was in the same age group with, I did it. And I also did it at the Pentecostal church that I grew up in. And that ceremony was very similar, I think, because I remember I saw pictures not too long ago from like me and my friends at that ceremony.
No.
I could probably find them on Facebook.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, of like me and some of the girls that I grew up with in the church, like in the Pentecostal church at that ceremony. And I think I was younger than when we did it at the church that we grew up together. I think I may have been like 10, like, because I have memory of the ceremony that we did at our church, but at the church, the Pentecostal church, I don't have memory of that.
So
I think I
probably
was
pretty young.
much younger, yeah.
So did you, in the Pentecostal church, was it, I know it wasn't like the official True Love Waits one, but was it like the same thing, like where you have lessons and things?
Yeah, it's very similar, except instead of it being, because I do remember at the church we went together, it was like a course.
Right.
Where it was like maybe 4 weeks or something
Yeah,
like
I think
that.
it was something like that.
So at the Pentecostal church, it's like, it's not a course. It's like it's like a small group. So when you're,
So it's longer than a few weeks.
yeah, it's like always, almost like, well, because when you're little, you're in a group called the Sunshine Band.
Oh, yeah,
And
you were
so
talking-
that's
yeah.
for like
The Sunshine Band.
Sunshine Band, yeah. And
Okay.
that's for when you're like a little kid. So maybe up until like 10, like 8 or 10, you're in that group. And then after that group is when you're in the purity group. So the purity group is literally just for like talking about abstinence.
How do you
And
talk about abstinence that much?
you just
all
like,
year round?
they basically just like reiterate the fact that like you save sex until marriage. So that's pretty much all they say. They don't talk about safe sex.
Did they do
They don't talk
the-
about like healthy sex once you are married. It's just about like don't have sex until you get married, or like you will go to hell and you will burn.
And die.
Yeah, seriously.
So what about, did they do the accountability partners things? Because we didn't do that in the True Love Waits, but I have heard several like churches have done that, like where essentially you're like accountable to another person for your like sexual
yeah, I
life.
don't recall doing anything like that. I do remember like it was a lot of like me and my dad type things, and I think
Yeah.
there was like a workbook where you'd have to like go home and like you're supposed to like talk to your parents about it, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't remember exactly like all the little details, but it was very
Something like that.
yeah. And they still have the purity like group. It's still a very big part of the church.
And so is it like once a year they do a ceremony, or is it like after your certain age?
You do a ceremony like once a year.
So you do it multiple times? Like
you do it, so you participate in the ceremony just one time, but then after that you help like put on the ceremony.
Okay.
And you help like you talk to the kids
Younger
coming
ones,
up about your experience.
Cause like you know some shit.
Yeah,
like
so
10 years
basically you
old.
just tell them that you like
you did it, so I did it, so you
18
should.
and I'm still a virgin. You can do it too. And like everybody's fucking lying, so we're all having sex with each other. So you know?
Yes,
Like,
yes, I do know.
yeah. It was
That's-
it's like
So-
looking back on it, it's so cringy.
What age did the purity group stop?
I think it stopped at like 19 or 20, maybe 21.
So it's like 10 years
like, or
of the same
until
group?
you're no longer pure. Yeah, you're in the same group. Like with the same group
okay, I'm
of
sorry.
kids.
Back up. Until you're no longer pure?
Yeah.
What the fuck does that mean?
So that's like, they don't ask you like, oh, are you still pure? But it's definitely like, are you still allowed to wear that? Because they gave you rings. Like you got like, I still have the ring. I almost wore it today just to show you.
Oh my God, you should have.
So it's just like a little silver band that my dad gave me.
Yeah.
And I've literally had it for 20 years. I feel like at this point, but
God.
I don't know why I hang on to it, but I still have it. And basically, like as long as they see that ring on your finger, that's you verbally telling them like I'm still a virgin, I'm still pure.
So if you take it off.
But when you don't wear it, that's the first sign of like you sit at the back of the church type thing.
Shut
Yeah, like you're not allowed to like
So if you
talk and like have talks in church, you know, like get in front of people and talk and stuff. Like
Stop.
yeah,
Okay, that's crazy.
it's so cringy.
So not only do they ask for you to pledge to stay pure, they actively want to make sure that you still
yeah,
are.
and it's not like a do the best you can. No, it's like you don't have a choice. Like you stay pure. I honestly at one point felt like if I had have had sex, my parents would have kicked me out of the house.
My parents would have.
Like that's where I was.
So you didn't have sex till you left your house?
No. I was definitely having sex before that. My mom to this day probably still does not know that, but
Yeah.
I don't fucking care. Not that I don't care that she knows, but like I feel like that was
how
so
old were
wrong.
you? I'm curious. I would like to know.
Yeah, I was older. I was 17. I graduated high school at 17, but I still lived with my parents. But
Right.
Yeah.
I guess I was meaning like before you were like out of high school.
Oh yeah, I was out of high school before I had sex.
Did you still wear a ring though?
I still wore the ring. And even after I moved out, before I got married, if I was around my parents, I still wore the ring. And I wore it on my left hand because I'm like, I was so ashamed. Like,
Ashamed.
I don't know if I was ashamed that I did it or I was ashamed for my family to know
Yeah.
that I'd done it. You
There
know?
you go. I think that's the ticket right
And
there.
and just looking back, I remember being like 18, like living with my parents and asking my mom to put me on birth control and like lying to her and being like, oh, it's 'cause like my period's so messed up.
Oh my God.
As a grown up at 18 years old.
So why didn't you feel like you could get birth control yourself?
I don't think I had I'm sure there were resources, but at
You didn't
18
know at
years old,
18.
I hadn't even gone to the gynecologist for the first time because I was
hadn't
a
either.
virgin, so I
Yeah.
had no need to go.
Yeah, I didn't go to the gynecologist till I was 21.
Yeah, I was 18, like after I asked for the birth control, I was 18.
Oh yeah, I was 21,
Yeah.
which is insane.
Insane.
Insane. I think it might have been, no. It was before I got married. It was very close to when I got married, when I actually went to the gynecologist for the first time.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's crazy. So then, I guess I don't even know where to go from there. I'm just like, that's crazy.
It's
Keep
crazy.
wearing that, like the wearing their purity ring. Like, so I also got a purity ring, right, for the True Love Wade ceremony. I have no idea what happened in mine. Lost that shit quick.
I am a hoarder.
I'm like, I can't believe you know where yours is. But so I have no idea where mine went. But I think it's important. I think a lot of people don't understand what, they've seen the purity rings. They were kind of popular for a little while, even in like pop culture. I don't know if you remember this, but when like the Jonas Brothers came on the scene,
I remember
they
that.
had purity rings, and so it
Yeah.
kind of became almost like a Disney Channel thing,
like
because
a cool thing to do.
because like Selena Gomez had one.
Mm-hmm.
I know the Jonas Brothers had them. Miley
how
Cyrus
did,
had
purity
them.
culture reach like
So
the media, you know?
I don't know the answer to that, and I actually tried to do like a little bit of digging, like how that came about, and pretty much people's theories are like either Disney was pushing it on the stars, like because they were all Disney Channel stars that were public about it. So some people have theories that it was Disney pushing it to help keep their image pure, if you will, because that's also when we had like Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears coming out with like their like dirty albums. That's when you have like I want to get
and they're
dirty.
like crop tops and low-rise jeans.
And so they were like oh my god, like I was not allowed to watch like Britney Spears music videos. I wasn't even allowed to listen to that type of music.
I wasn't allowed to watch Pretty Woman because there was a sex scene in there. And one time when it was on, I asked my mom, was like, are they having sex under those covers? And she literally banned Pretty Woman. I think I was like 25
my god,
when I saw the full Pretty Woman. And to this day, when it comes on, I'm just like, is my mom gonna see me watching this?
Yeah, I get that. I never saw Pretty Woman, but my parents were very much like that the same way. But anyways, so I think so all that to say, like I think it got really popular too at some point, like purity rings, or some people called them promise rings. Like I'm promising my dad essentially to keep penises out from between my legs. I don't know, it's ridiculous. But like, you know, we said like it was a course, but I think the thing that shocks most people that are not growing up in the church or around like those is the ceremony itself.
Yeah. Is
essentially a wedding.
So what do you remember of the ceremony?
So I don't remember a ton, but I do remember, our church had weddings a lot. And it was literally set up just like a wedding. Mm-hmm. There was like a main aisle. Yeah. It was decorated with like white tulle and flowers. And they had multiple, like, you know, in a wedding, you would normally have like one arch like in the middle or something focal in the middle. They had like multiple.
Yeah, I remember that.
There was multiple kids that were true love. I don't know what that was. Ceremonying. And I also remember it was only female. Yeah. So now the True Love Wakes program, they had like a male section and a female section, and they talked about, I can't even remember honestly, like what they talked about because I mean, it was 7th grade. I don't even remember the conversations. But the gist of it was don't have sex because, you always hear like you're giving pieces of your heart away and you're like a crumpled flower that can never be straightened again. Yeah. And once you squeeze the toothpaste out of the tube, it can't go back in, and now you have nothing to give your husband. Yeah. I remember skits happening where they would have like a man and a woman at the altar. This skit is in my mind. You had a man and a woman, or they were children, but because it was, a skit, wherever, but they had a guy and a girl at the front of the altar, like pretending to get married, and each of them had like 4 or 5 men behind them or women behind them. Yeah, I remember So, like, the man had, like, 5 women behind him, and then the girl had, like, 5 men, and they're like, you're marrying everybody that they had sex with. Oh, my God, yeah. And so I remember that one, like, I remember really, like, vividly. So, like, that was, like, one that was, like, this is what happens, like, if you have sex before you're married. The other one I remembered was they had a piece of paper, and we're like, you just give a piece of your heart away to this person. So and weird. You give a piece of your heart away to this person. And the guy is like, youth pastor's like being really dramatic in the audience, handing out pieces of paper. And then at the end, he's got like a teeny tiny, and this is all you have left if you have this for your husband. Like,
you don't deserve that.
Like, little did he know that was good enough. No. But yeah, so like those are the things I remember that stick in my head that I remember from there. I don't really remember much of the actual lesson part of it.
Yeah, I don't either.
But I remember those things.
Like, don't do it.
Yeah, don't have sex or you will die. It's like that Mean Girls scene. It's seriously literally don't have sex, okay?
Like, how do you feel like just piggybacking off of like don't have sex, you will die. Like, how do you feel like that ceremony or like that experience shaped the way like you saw sex or you envisioned your person as like you as like a sexual person?
I did not envision myself as a sexual person at all. I also like I kind of very rarely dated like in general. Like I didn't really date much. Like I didn't really care, But I mean, I guess I I don't know exactly, like negative. Like,
Yeah.
that's all I mean, I don't know how to totally answer because it's like in so many ways. Like I never thought of myself as a sexual being. Like even now, that's kind of like a weird thing. Like it feels
As
weird
a
to
grown-up,
say,
I
like,
feel weird
I'm
to say
sexual.
I see myself sexually. Like what?
Yeah,
No,
like
that
it feels
so
weird. Yeah,
uncomfortable.
like and so like I never like. Even once I was married, like I never thought of myself as like sexy or like any of these
Me
things that
either,
you kind
yeah.
of gain a lot of that confidence like when you're younger. So like I think it kind of, you know, impacted a lot of that. But then I think, you know, I didn't have sex until I was 18. And I remember when I did, it was like, okay, the sex stuff, whatever. But I'm like, but it was just like I remember the emotional trauma of it.
Yeah.
Afterwards, like being inconsolable, like just crying and like I can't believe like 18 years I went without having sex, and now I was just inconsolable. And then I also felt like I couldn't talk to anybody because all my friends at the time were Christian, and so I only had one friend that I knew was having sex, and so I talked to her. And she was so sweet about it all. And she was just like, you're not an awful person. And like, you're already an adult. Like, it's okay. And blah, blah, blah. Like, and she was the one who was like, did you use the condom and all this stuff? We didn't use a condom because like my first time I had sex, I did not, because I didn't even know how to use a condom because nobody ever fucking taught me.
Yeah.
Like, and that's like a weird thing for friends to talk, like, here's how you use a condom. Like, yeah, talk about like the sexy part of sex, if you will. But, you know, and I'm just like, how dangerous is that? Because nobody fucking talked to me.
And like, now that you say that, I don't recall a time when I was like, as a young person, like, that I was ever like responsible in a sense of like, I'm gonna buy condoms or like, I'm gonna have them at my house just in case. Like, I
never did.
I
never did either, and which is also insane. But yeah, like even when we lived together, you know, I didn't buy condoms there. I don't know if you did. Like,
no,
maybe you
I didn't.
But because I felt like if you bought condoms, you were like admitting. Well, not just that. Like even now as a married person, like I don't like checking out with condoms. I don't know why.
Still uncomfortable.
It's still uncomfortable. I Amazon that shit. Like
even as a grown up, when I was pregnant, trying to get pregnant and got pregnant with my daughter, I was uncomfortable buying a pregnancy test. I don't know why.
Me too. Why? What? That's crazy.
Grown
I was
woman,
too.
30 years old.
Like, oh my god, they're gonna touch me, and you have like a wedding ring on your finger. Yeah,
seriously,
it's crazy. But yeah, but I felt like if I bought condoms and had them, it was like I was admitting that I wasn't even trying to not have sex, because I guess in it was constantly a struggle. Like I had no like consistent sexual relationship, if that makes sense.
I didn't either.
I had sex with like a few people, but like one time, and then I would feel so bad and beat myself up so much that like pretty much that either relationship ended or I just like wouldn't talk to them or I would ghost them. Like, you know, I pretty much, because I felt so bad. So I never had like a consistent like, okay, we have sex all the time until I was with my husband now. So like he was not my first, but he was my first like actual sexual relationship.
Yeah.
And so, but that also came with its whole host of, you know, issues even in dating life. And, you know, we didn't have sex for a long time when we were dating because I would like swear to myself like I was gonna be good. And I told him like, you know, I don't really want to have sex. And he was really sweet. He never pressured me at all. But after we were like 5 months, I think we were like 5 months in, and I'm like, fuck it. Like we just did it. So, and it was like, we did it like once we were both kind of drunk and, you know, whatever. And then it was like, whatever, we already did. And so, you know, but I would all of the time just feel so guilty and so bad.
Yeah.
Like, and so sex kind of, I feel like because of how I was raised, sex became like this not terrible thing, but like it came with so much shame and guilt and like, I'm doing something wrong. And it's like, I never got to have that fun exploration and that fun learning. And I feel like I'm doing that now as an adult, like a grown ass adult in my 30s, you know, with my husband. But that's kind of like a weird time to fucking do that. That's like,
for sure.
You're usually doing that in like your early 20s, teens. It's weird that I'm doing that now.
Yeah. No,
We're alive, we can breathe, now let's break some rules. It's time to jump, time to scream, can we